Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 3, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." A lot of people just see the word poor and think, well, I just got to be, monetarily poor in order to go. That's not what he's talking about. Poor in spirit. So let's take a look at that for a minute. I'm Zach. This is The Average Christian. It's a project about what it means to have a relationship with God and how do I live that out in practical, everyday terms. What are we talking about here with Christianity? So in Matthew 5 and verse 3, you commonly hear these referred to as the Beatitudes as he starts here. Blessed are the poor in spirit. What does that mean? Maybe I can show you the opposite of that and you get a better understanding. Instead of trying to explain it to you, I'm going to take you to James chapter 5 and starting in verse 1 here. He had to be talking to some, arrogant Christians. He had to be talking to some selfishly minded Christians, people who probably thought they were better than others. Apparently people who are well-to-do to a degree. And in chapter 4, he's talking to people who are just so selfish that they are not asking God, and that's why they're not receiving. People who are asking God for what it is they want, but they want it for their own purposes, not for godly purposes, but for, their life to go well or go right, whatever the case is. So you come to James chapter 5. Let's look at this and let's see the opposite of what poor in spirit is. And maybe that will help you to understand the mentality behind what Jesus is talking about there. In chapter 5 and verse 1, James is the book once again. "Come now, you rich, weep and howl for the miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted and your garments are mothing. Doesn't this speak to the disappointment?" I mean, you remember what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, right? When he talks about not laying up treasures on earth where moth and rust corrupt, where thieves break in and steal, instead doing so in heaven where none of those things happen. And these people's lives are so wrapped up in the physical world. Now, look, for you and I in America, most of you who are watching this are probably in some culture like ours or in America, we're rich. They go around, some people in Christianity go around talking about how it almost sounds like it's sinful to be rich. Well, if it is, we're all lost and going to hell because compared to the rest of the world, we are doing well. And so these temptations in James 5 are really something that can grab a hold of us quickly and can take us down. It's not about just having money. It's about being so wrapped up in worldly things. And you can call that idolatry if you want to, but you understand your riches have rotted and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have corroded, and their corrosion will be evidence against you and will eat your flesh like fire. You have laid up treasure in the last days. Behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you have kept back by fraud. Really stingy, to the point of cheating other people, to the point of not paying those who are due or not taking care of other people. See how selfishly minded here. Which you kept back by fraud are crying out against you, again in verse 4. And the cry is the harvesters having reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. You have lived, listen closely, verses 5 and 6. You have lived on the earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. I can't tell you how much in my own life I am giving myself a pass because of my own self-indulgence here. He uses the word luxury. We are all living in that. You and I forget about things like flipping a switch and lights come on, turning a knob and water comes out, or flushing a toilet. There are all these basic things that we would call necessity that the rest of the world in many, many places look at as luxury. And so the key is to still be poor in spirit, meaning I am not so wrapped up in myself. I am not so wrapped up in this world, the things of the world. And it also amazes me to see how many Christians are so self-indulgent and want to bend God's rules and live the way they want to live and still say the word Jesus and go to church in a certain building and make themselves feel better about all of it. And James is just calling them dead on it here. You have lived on the earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. Again, not a sin to live in luxury, but here are the dangers, and here is the evidence of those dangers. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. You've lived the way you want to. You've done what you want to. Your whole life has been about you. I'm asking you, does that define you? Is your whole existence about you? Or about just your family or your life or what you're interested in? You have condemned and murdered the righteous person. He does not resist you. I hope fairly quickly here by looking at James, you can see the opposite of what it means to be poor in spirit. And you and I can learn to prioritize, let go of the things that don't matter. And they keep selling us, and they keep throwing more products, and they keep throwing more technology and gadgets and options to use up your time, your energy, and your resources until we're like this, so fattened on ourselves, hearts only about self-indulgence and luxury in our lives. I hope you can see that and prioritize and learn what it means to be poor in spirit, because Jesus says we'll be blessed and we'll have the kingdom of heaven. I want to thank you for being with us today. If you're watching on YouTube, if you haven't already, please subscribe. If you find this video useful, helpful in some way, please like it. Both of those help us get the word out. And that's the whole point, is by sharing this, we can help more people. If you're listening on podcast, thank you as well. What we would ask of you, if you haven't already, is to subscribe, rate, and review once again, so the word gets out. If you found this video useful and you think it'll help somebody else, please share it.